What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we are continuing our 2020 virtual college football season, where we are going through the season as if it was supposed to be played. The original schedule, no players opting out. We're going through what, again, was supposed to be the normal 2020 college football season, and we just finished week 5. It says week 6 here, but again, week 1 on our schedule was actually week 0. So this was actually week 5 of the season. We have week 6 coming up. I'm going to run through the scores really quickly. I don't really have time to sit here and talk about each game, obviously, but if anything jumps out, I will, of course, stop and talk about that for a second. Of course, North Carolina and Virginia, overtime game, great game. That was one of the games we showed you last week. If you missed it, we are going to start showing the games on Sundays because they're going to go pretty much all day long. So watch for the week 6 games on Sunday here on this channel. So keep that in mind. We had Kansas State upset Texas. That was a big win for them. Iowa State over Kansas, and the top 25 that you see is the new top 25 because we've advanced the week, and I'll show you that top 25 in just a second. Kentucky over Auburn, Alabama over Ole Miss, and again, I'm just going to quickly scroll through some of these games you saw here on the channel. How about Mississippi State beating Texas A&M, an upset there? And those are just the top 25 games. We'll just very quickly scroll through the rest of the game so you can you can pause it or whatever if you want to see a certain game. But you can see all the scores here from week 5, and these were the games that were supposed to have been played. There is Alabama Ole Miss. Of course, they're playing this weekend. They were supposed to play 1 week earlier. And these are the games that, I mean, a lot of them we are still getting, but some of these games we will not get because of the changes in the schedules, obviously. There was a big game there. Louisiana and App State, they were supposed to play this past weekend. App State won 35-28. That's a good game there. And not really seeing anything, too major. No major. I mean, there were some upsets, like I said. There's Pitt beating Miami. I don't know if that was really an upset. And then TCU beating Oklahoma State. Big win for the Horned Frogs. So let's go now we'll look at the Heisman Watch. Trevor Lawrence is at number 1. Justin Fields, number 2. Sam Ehlinger, number 3. How about Chris Curry of LSU at number 4? And there's Jamie Newman of Georgia, who really would have had a good shot, I think, to win the Heisman this year. Decided to opt out. So we see that he is now in that Heisman race. Those are your top 5. And we have not been showing the conference standings. I'll show those this week since we're now getting into the season a little bit further and we actually have some standings. So we'll show you the top 25 here. Clemson is number 1, then Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Florida, Ohio State, Alabama. I've already forgot who Alabama lost to. Well, they lost to Georgia. There's LSU, Penn State, the usual suspects. Utah's doing pretty good, up at number 9. Virginia Tech's undefeated. So no real surprise, no teams here that you're shocked about. Kansas State, Virginia, maybe a bit of a surprise. Look at West Virginia sitting there at 5-0. Other teams receiving votes with Cincinnati, Michigan, UCF, Iowa, Baylor, Houston, and Duke. Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, and Texas A&M all dropped out of the top 25. So now we'll look at those updated conference standings. And we will go to start in the ACC, the Atlantic Division. All right, Clemson on top, already 4-0 in the conference. Florida State is 1-0. And in the Coastal, it's Duke on top. Also, Virginia Tech and North Carolina. Both of those teams are undefeated as well. In the American, there's UCF on the top. Cincinnati also unbeaten. And we're so early, we don't have a lot of games here. Houston and Navy are undefeated in the conference. In the Big 12. Now, for my dynasty file that I did, I put a couple of teams, I think BYU and New Mexico State in the Big 12, but they don't have any Big 12 games, so they're going to stay at the bottom of the standings. Keep that in mind. But I'm going to mod the Big 12 championship game. So although Well, it may work out. The teams that we put in the divisions and opposite divisions may be 1 and 2, but if not, I will modify that so that the top 2 teams, will be in the Big 12 championship game. But there's TCU and Oklahoma, Iowa State, West Virginia, all unbeaten. Kansas State has a loss, Baylor has a loss, Texas and Oklahoma State both have a loss. And again, there's BYU and New Mexico State at the bottom. Neither one of those teams has played a game in the conference, and they will not play the game in the conference. So they will not be affected in the standings. Penn State and Ohio State obviously set up for a big clash in the Big Ten East, and we have no undefeated teams left in the West. Already every team has at least 1 loss. Conference USA, let's go to the divisions. Western Kentucky, FIU on top. UAB, Louisiana Tech, Rice, UTEP, North Texas, all unbeaten. Independence, Notre Dame is in the Independence in this series. They're not in the ACC because we're going with what was supposed to have happened. They're off to a 5-0 start. There's the MAC East, the MAC West. How about the Mountain West? In the Mountain Division, Boise State, no surprise, they're on top. Colorado State, also 1-0. And in the West Division, Hawaii is on top at 1-0. Pac-12, we've got Washington on top at 1-0. Only unbeaten team in that division. And then UCLA, Utah on top of the South, both 2-0. USC just lost to Utah, they're 2-1. SEC East, right now it's Florida, Georgia. No surprise, they're on top of that division. And in the West, we have Mississippi State and LSU. Alabama already has a loss. Auburn has 2 losses. Texas A&M has 2 losses. So definitely some surprises in the SEC West right now. And then the Sun Belt, we don't have divisions, but we have ULM and App State on top. Louisiana also 2-1. They're off to a pretty good start. So those are the conference standings. And we'll look. I hate going through the injuries because I forget who was already injured and who's a new injury. So I'm just going to quickly run through these. And like I said, some of these injuries already happened, but it's hard to remember who already got hurt, who is a new injury, all that. So we'll scroll through really quickly. Ian Book, I think, was already injured. Sean Clifford was already injured. So those are the quarterbacks. Running backs here. Chuba Hubbard, I think, was already out. He's out for the season. C.J. Verdell's been out for a while. A lot of injuries to running backs. Wide receivers. Most of these guys were already injured. J.D. Spillman's out with a broken toe. He's out for a week. I think that was a new one. Some tight ends, offensive linemen, more left guards, the centers. Injuries all over the place. But again, this is every single team we're looking at. So obviously there's going to be a lot of injuries. Right tackle Evan Neal out for 9 weeks for Alabama. And you can see how these injuries could definitely change the season for a lot of these teams. I think there's been a lot more injuries on the offensive side of the ball for whatever reason. As we go through the defensive linemen, there's the linebackers, middle linebackers. We go to the cornerbacks. Safety, strong safety. Eddie Smith's out for the season for Alabama. No injuries to kickers. All right, so now we can look at the schedule coming up for Sunday, and we'll probably have 4 or 5 games that I'm going to show. And I'll probably decide that after the video. And sometimes I'll be recording a game and it turns into a blowout, so I just decide not to show that one. So we got Stanford, Notre Dame, not really a big game. Oklahoma, Texas will definitely show that one. Of course, they play in real life this weekend. Minnesota and Wisconsin, that's not looking quite as big now. Minnesota's 0-2 in the conference. Iowa and Ohio State. Virginia Tech, North Carolina, they play in real life tomorrow. We'll probably show that one. Clemson, Florida State, we'll probably show that game since Florida State's 1-0 in the conference. And there's Florida LSU. They play in real life this weekend. Auburn, Georgia, they just played last week. So those the games I just named will probably be the ones we show. If one is a blowout or whatever, I probably won't show that game. Like I said, here's the schedule in the Big 12. Games in the ACC. These are the games that were supposed to happen this weekend if the season had gone on like normal. How things could have potentially been different. Obviously, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with all these teams now joining in real life now. The Big 10, the Pac-12, the MAC, the Mountain West. Still going to be a fun college football season, but this is the season we would have had. There's the SEC. A couple of big games there. And the Sun Belt. So that's the schedule coming up on Sunday. Just check the website. Once I determine the games that I'm for sure going to show, I will post them on the website, and I'll also I will post the times and when you can watch these games, and they'll all be here on this channel. This series has moved completely to this channel. All the games for this series will be on this SG1 Sports channel. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. We're going to keep it going and see who winds up winning our virtual championship. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports YouTube channel.